Okay. So we are going to talk about another fundamental CSS concept that is very, very crucial in the designing of a page. And the concept is called positioning. Positioning elements on the page, right? So one of the things that we have to understand is that there is something called a normal flow of the document. The normal flow of the document is, when you are positioning elements on the page, the element that is at the top is going to always be at the top. And then the ones that come after that, it's always going to come after that. You're like, oh, I put one paragraph. You can say, oh, let me put a heading tag over here. After that, I'm going to put a paragraph. Then I'm going to put this. That is the normal flow of the document. So if you put, say, a paragraph below a heading tag, it's always going to stay below it. That is the normal flow of the document. But sometimes, so that is also a form of positioning. The elements are positioned on the page following the normal flow of the document. Sometimes you want to position the element in a different way altogether. You don't want the element to follow the normal flow. Maybe you want to take this element and put it somewhere else on the page. So the ability to do that is all dependent on the property called position, the position property. And we are going to learn that today. It's a very, very important concept. And if people who understand this position property, they are able to do advanced designs on the page, very, very advanced level designs and extremely beautiful designs. And hopefully we can understand that by the end of this lesson. So the property is position. What are the values that it takes? Static is one, relative is one, absolute is one, fixed and sticky. These are the values that the position property can take. Of course, each of these values has a completely different behavior. And that is what I intend for us to go through. So on this page, I have the summary of many things that are useful in understanding the positioning of elements on the page. So first of all, we're going to go through the static, relative, this. We're going to go through them and what they do. But there is another property, there's other set of properties called top, right, bottom, and left. I'm saying these are properties, not values, right? So remember, we are thinking about positioning elements on the page. So some of the properties that are useful in doing this are not exactly some. I mean, these are probably all the properties there are, right? These are all the properties. So anytime you think about positioning something, you have to think in the context of these properties. And I just want us to understand what they do. So the top, what does the top do? It allows you to specify the distance between the element and the top of the page. So it could be the top of the whole screen. That is a viewport. Let me explain what I mean. Like you see this element over here, the space between this element and the top of my screen. You can see this is a whole space, it's a distance. You can specify this in pixels. You can specify this in any unit that you want, right? But there is a space between this and the top of the screen. And the top property allows you to do that. Sometimes it is not just between the element and the top of the screen. It could be between the element and the top of the parent element. We know the issue with the children and the parent, right? Some of the elements, they live within a parent. So if you specify the top, it's going to be between the top and that. We're going to understand how this position is what determines. What the value you give to the position property is what determines whether the top is going to be from here to the top of the screen or from here to the top of the parent container. We're gonna experiment with all that. So the right property, as you can tell, the space between the element and the right of the screen. So if you want to set the space from here to here, you just say right, and then you specify. So it's only gonna work on an element that is positioned on the page. So, and we're gonna know what that means very soon. So if you have an element and you don't set the position property, then you cannot use the top, right, bottom, and left. What about the bottom? As you can tell, the bottom is the space between the element and the bottom of the screen, or whatever it is relative to, right? Whatever it is relative to. Okay, so the left, as you can tell, is also the left of the screen. These four properties are very, very, very powerful, and they come in handy a lot, right? I'm gonna ask one question, okay? As I'm talking about the top, right, bottom, left. Actually, two questions. So I'm saying that the top is what? The space between the element and the top of the screen, the space. You can say, make it 50 pixels, make it 0 pixels. So the question is, if I make the top property, I give it a value of 0 pixels, what do you think is gonna happen to this element? Assuming it is positioned relative to the viewport.
If you do what? The 0.5, you said?
No, 0. I'll give it a 0 pixel. See, let's assume that this element is positioned on the page relative to the viewport. Viewport is what? The screen, the whole screen. So now if I'm setting the top property, I'm giving it a value of 0 pixel. What do you think is going to happen to this element?
Will be 0.
I'm sorry?
Would it be the same thing?
It will stay at the same place? Okay, so I'm saying that the top is the space between the element and the top of the screen.
Right.
The length of that.
Right.
So if you make that 0 pixel, what are you saying to the computer?
To be on the default.
It should be on the default.
Yeah, it will maintain the screen resolution.
Yeah,
instead
the
of
default is a good thing, right? Every element has a default value. So in the case of the position, that is the static value. The static value is the default value for position, and that is the normal flow of the document, right? So whatever position you put it, that is where it's going to stay. So I agree with you. If this one right now has the default value for the position, so if you set the top, you can't even set the top, right? If the value of the position is what, static, you cannot use the top and the right values. You can't use them because the static is the default value. It doesn't change anything. But if the value is any of this, then you can now set the top and the right and the bottom. But I am saying, let's assume that this is positioned. It's not relative to the document, the normal flow of the document. Right now, the normal flow of this document is that all of these elements, they come before this element, right? That is the normal flow. So this is positioned relative to the normal flow. So it is the property, the value is actually static. Don't worry, we're gonna go through this. That is the topic for today's class. I think they can be very confusing sometimes, being able to understand them in such a way that you will not forget them. But I hope that I'll be able to make it easier. So now I'm saying that this is assuming that this is not positioned relative to the normal flow, but it is positioned relative to the viewport. In other words, the whole screen of the computer, right? What that means is that the top, right, bottom, left properties are available to you. You can use them. If they are available to you, it means that whatever value you set on them is going to work. right? And now it's a simple question. Don't think too much, okay? We are looking at this element, and I'm saying that the top is this, the distance or the length between this element and the top of the screen. All of this, that is the top. So like if I ask you to estimate what this length will be in pixels, what do you think is going to be? Like estimate the length from here to here. What do you think this is going to be?
Maybe 50
50 what?
pixel.
50 pixels. I think 50 pixels is very, very short. 50 pixels will be like this much from here to here.
Like 100.
100 pixel, see, if from here to here is 50, 100 pixel will be like from here to here. So I'm talking about from here to the top, the whole screen.
Do we have a choice of
Maybe
using?
1,000.
Sorry, please go ahead.
Maybe 1,000. So.
Maybe 1,000, yeah. So if this is say 100 pixels, about 600 pixels, that's a good guess. And
Are you allowed to use percentage in this?
oh yeah, you can use
Pixel?
percentage, 100%. If you use percentage, 50% of what? The parent size. So mostly assuming the parent size is 100%, and you use 50%, this is about 50% of the screen, right? Actually, one more question to you. See, the height from here to here, is it not the view height? The VH from here to here is the VH, the view height, the viewport height, right? From the top to the bottom. So VH, we know the height from here to here is VH. And if you want about half of it, I think that's going to be 0.5 VH. 0.5 means what? Half of whatever you specify. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. So unfortunately, we need to be thinking about these things all the time as far as the front end is concerned. So now let's say that the height, the length from here, as you can see here, to the end of the screen, that is the view width, VW. So if you know that one, we already know that. We always know that is VW. That's the length. So if I ask you, what do you think, what is the estimated length from this element to the end of this? It's about half of the view width, right? So you can say 0.5 VW. And that would be a good estimate also. Anyway, this is just by the way. Let's go back to the question. So we are anticipating that the length from here to the top of the screen is about 600 pixels. 600 pixels. So can I say that the value of top on this element is going to be 600 pixels? Yes, we can say that. Because the tab property is what specifies the length, right? So whatever the length is, the name of that is called what? Top. Or tab, whatever. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Right? Are we on the same page?
Yes.
Yes.
So because we are saying from here to here is about 600 pixels. I said, yes, that's true. But that value 600 pixel is the same as the port. So what I'm saying is, what is the color of this element here? Say, assuming the color is blue, then the color, you can say, oh, the color is blue. So blue is the color. So the length from here to here is also the tab property. And so now the main question is, if I set in the CSS code, if I set the tab I call the top property on this element and I set it to 0 pixels, 0 pixels. What do you think is going to happen to this element? From here to here is 600. That is why it is all the way down, right? If you make it 0, what's going to happen?
It's gonna go all the way up.
It's going to go all the way up. Yes, it's going to go all the way up and stick to the top of the screen. That is all I'm waiting for, right? From here to here, 600. Now it is 0, so it's going to go all the way up and stick to the top. Okay?
Okay.
Okay. So, of course, if I said, Ibrahim, did you understand what Afi said? I think
No, because my phone went off. I just joined from my phone. My laptop went off. I just joined from my phone now. Maybe
okay.
can you say that again? I'm so sorry. I've been a mess today.
No, it's okay. Thank you. Afi, can you repeat what you said? If we set the top to 0 pixels, what's going to happen to this element?
The element is gonna go all the way up to the top.
Right? So this will go all the way to the top and stick to the top.
Okay.
And that makes sense, right? Because there's no space between the top and the element. That is 0.
Yeah.
So now if I make the left property to 0 pixels, what's going to happen?
It's going to move to the left.
The left, all the way to the left. Now, if I make the left 0 and the top 0, what's going to happen?
It's gonna be all the way in the
And
corner.
go to the corner of the top by the left.
Yeah. Beautiful. Oh my God, you guys are thinking. So yes, if you want to put this element at the corner here, that's what you would do. You make the top 0 and then you make the left 0. What about if I make the right 0 and then the top 0?
To the opposite corner.
Come to the top here. The top right corner. If I want to put it at the bottom here, what should I do? The bottom right corner. Remember, we have the bottom and the left also. These are the 4 properties. Bottom right corner.
Bottom right corner. On the right, you're gonna put 0. Then maybe you're gonna get the weight, the height of the screen.
Okay.
Or viewpoint. Then you put it there. Or if possible, you can do like a bottom 0.
Good.
To the right 0.
So the bottom 0, right 0, that's the best way to do this, to put it at the corner here. But you were saying that you can set the top to the height of the viewport, which is also a very good thing. We may experiment with that later on. And of course, to put it here too, if you want to try that at the corner here.
So the left would be 0. And in this case, can you get the are you able to do the
Bottom?
The bottom?
Yeah, you have to do the bottom now. Over here. Set the bottom to 0 and then you get it. The point is that you cannot use the top and the bottom at the same time. That is a tautology.
Okay.
So, and then the left and the right, you cannot use them at the same time. As you can see, if you specify that from here to here is, say, 50 pixels, computer understands you. You don't have to tell it the bottom to the item. It's just, you have to use one of them. Either from the bottom to the item is this, or from the top to the item. So you will never use the same style or in the same curly bracket, top and bottom in there. No, it doesn't. You can put it there, but it's not going to work. You're going to confuse the computer. Then the right also, yeah, so that's it. This is a useful, as far as the position is static, you cannot use this, but if it is any of this, we can use that. And the Z index, do you guys know what a Z index is? Is this something that you've heard before?
No.
Okay, so if two elements are stacked on top of one another, the one that you want to show, you want to stay at the top, you give it a higher V index number. I mean, this one takes the highest priority. We're going to use them. Display, we know how that works. So float, we have to learn the float and the clear. And then I'm going to teach you the float and the clear. I don't know which one to teach first, actually. This or this. It's a little confusing, but they go together, right? You can see. Well, let's do the position first, and then I'll teach the float and the clear, because I believe this is slightly different from the positioning anyways. Okay, so by default, the value is going to be static. So they keep following the normal flow. But the top, left, bottom properties are not available here. But if you make it relative is very similar to the static, because the element is going to be positioned relative to the normal flow. In other words, wherever it is going to stay wherever it is in the document's normal flow. But you are able to set the top, right, and the bottom properties on it. Now the absolute is the one that is very, very radical. So the absolute is going to be positioned relative to the nearest positioned ancestor or parent, right? We can call it parent or ancestor, it's okay. This, I'm sorry that I'm making this complicated. I should show you guys, but I'm actually speaking it in words. Because this is another way to learn, right? So that once we start with the practice, maybe, no, let's just do the practice side by side, because just thinking in words can be too difficult. So I'm gonna create a working directory for today's class. So CSS Day 4. Day 4. Now in here, let's just create a file that we're gonna use. I'll say positioning. Let me give it names, say relative position.html. And let's try to demonstrate what this is. This is gonna do. We can just put some HTML stuff in here. Let's just put anything. So I'll just say the boilerplate will come. Really don't care about this, but in here, let's put a div. Div and put Lauren. And some paragraphs in there. We are going to demonstrate the relative positioning. So let me just have 3 divs. Actually, 4 is fine. Let's just call this one, say, neighbor 1. But we want to put, we have a bunch of elements on the page, neighbor 2, and then let's say we want to position this one. So we're gonna say main elements. Main element. Element to position is better. Okay, and then the other one can also be a neighbor. So neighbor 4, neighbor 3. So why am I calling these divs neighbors to this element that we care about? Can you guys tell me why? But they are all at the same level, right? But they are brothers, they are siblings, okay?
Yes. Yeah.
They are siblings, okay. So let's give some I say classes here in case we want to style these neighbors. So I'll give the same to all the neighbors. And then for the one that we are actually positioning, let's call it positioned. Let's call it main. Okay, now let's see what we got. Just see what this becomes. We have this. So let's do some styling. Should we do the styling right in here, or we should do it in a separate external file? I think it's faster to do it in here. So let me just do it here. I want to give borders to these elements so that we can see them properly. So let me just call the neighbors, do the neighbors first. It is a class, so I have to put a dot here, right? So let me specify, say border. I'll give it 2 pixels, solid. That's fine. You don't always have to specify the last property. The default one is going to be black. Do you guys want to set the height and width of these elements? Let's see what this does.
Sure.
So 1 second. Div style. I don't know why it didn't work. Why don't we see the border? It's a little interesting. This is a div, so display is already.
Maybe do you have to save it? Because it's showing white up there.
Actually, it was already saved.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but I'll save it again and try. See? So it's not specifying the border. So let's see why. Let me add another property and make sure that this is hooked, say red. Specify the color property and see if that works. So even the color property also doesn't work. So something is completely off. What mistake have we made, guys? Or is it that Visual Studio is just not working? Well, dot neighbor. Oh, there's a spelling mistake. Can you see it? See the H? It's missing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's gonna let you, because sometimes you can do the styling first before you assign the classes. So it doesn't care. It will let you keep doing that. If this was a program like computer programming, it would have warned you that, hey, you've made a mistake.
Right.
So now everything else is working. I'm gonna leave this. We don't want the color here. Let's just set the font size so that we can see the font size. To make the size slightly bigger, say 25 pixels. But by default, this is like what, 16? So I'm just increasing the font. And what else do you guys want me to do? You want me to add a margin here? We're gonna work on this. So margin, let's just make it 5 pixels. It's gonna space out this stuff. See, this looks good. So of course, the main is different. So I want to apply the same styling to the main for now. So I'll just copy this and do the main here separate. Save. Okay. This red color, I don't like it. Let me change it to orange. That's my newfound color. No, tomato, sorry. Can you imagine there's a color called tomato? Tomato. Okay, save this. Now let's see tomato color in action. Oh gosh, really? So yeah, this is needed. It's an error there. And boom. Okay. Now, these are 4 elements on the page, and all of them are statically positioned. So let me set the top property on any of them and see if it's going to work. Say 500 pixels. I'm setting the top property for the neighbors. Save. And see, nothing happens. Nothing is happening because it is the value of the position is what? Static. If you want to see, I can add it here to position static. This is the default value. There's no need to add it. So nothing is happening, as you can see. Now, I'm going to position this element here to a different value. Say, let me make it relative. So relative, what does the position relative do? The position relative is going to position this object relative to the normal flow. In other words, where the element is positioned right now is going to stay just at the same, it's going to stay right there. It's not going to go anywhere. So let's save it and refresh. You see nothing is happening because it is still within the normal flow of the document. But now if I set the top property on it, it's going to work. Let's see how that's gonna. Actually, I'm gonna set the left first because we have some space here on the left. If I set the left property, this one should move to the left. But whatever, so left. And now we'll make this 70 pixels. Now let's see. Boom. Can you guys see what is happening?
Yeah.
So essentially, all you have to understand is what the relative positioning. We can see that the rest of the page has disappeared. It's still there. You have to scroll to the right to see it. The length is still the same. You are just moving it to the right, to the right. If you set the left, you're moving it to the right. If you set the right, you're moving it to the left. Okay, so let's set the top and see what happens with the top. Top of 70 pixels. I'm curious as to what happens to it. Boom. So suddenly it's setting the top from, I believe, from here to here. Because actually it's actually from here to here. Okay.
So it wouldn't be from where it left off?
That's a good question. It wouldn't be from where it left.
Where it was?
Yeah, it could very well be like that. Let me make it 0 and we'll find out if that's what it's doing. You see, if I make it 0 and it goes back to where it used to be, then we are sure that it came from there, right? But it's a very good question. Good, boom. So it came back to where it was. And thank you for pointing that out, right? Because this is positioned relative to the normal flow of the page. This is where it used to be. So everything that you do is going to remember where it used to be. And then from there, you can start moving it around on the page. So that is a good catch. That is the relative. So let me set the bottom to 0 and see what happens. Bottom to 0. I gotta save this. So bottom to 0 is not working on this. I would say the reason why the bottom to 0 is not working is I don't know if it's comfortable getting past this element. Oh, a bottom 0. So it's it's kind of working. So the bottom will be from here. Exactly where it's at. Okay, let's see what's happening. See, if you set the top to 0, it doesn't move. It stays where it is, right? And then if you set the bottom to 0 too, it's also the same. But it is positioned relative to the normal flow. That is the reason. Essentially, I think the only thing you can do is to just move it left or right. Let me increase this a little bit. Of course, if I increase the bottom, then it's gonna go from here up. Say if I make it say 20 pixels, then it's from here 20 pixels up. Yep. You see? Right now, you guys can see the overlapping. This element is overlapping with this. So if I set the Z index of this neighbor 2 to be bigger than this, then the neighbor 2 will come up. It will come up. Why don't I do that now? Neighbor 2 is gonna belong to this neighbor. So say Z index. Normally, if you can use any number, the bigger the better. Z index, the bigger the better. But even if you use 1 also, it's also gonna work. And when I do that, let's see. So unfortunately, let's just apply the Z index to the neighbor 2 only. If I want to apply this to the neighbor 2 only, how am I going to do it? Can you guys tell me how to do that? Neighbor 2, I want to apply some styling to only this. How am I going to do it? There are different ways of doing it.
Can you, you know how you did? Yeah, just like that, and put number 2 next to it.
Now what should I do? These ones are already common in the other piece I can do. What can I do? You can assign multiple classes. Okay, that's also another way to do it. Let's see if this works for us. And that also did not make the Z index work. That was a little strange. Why would the Z index? Let's see why the Z index is not working.
So the Z index is the overlap, right?
Yeah. Which of these elements should take priority?
Okay.
So Z index. Let me set the Z index here to use the default value, I believe is like 0. So let me make this like say 1. So that clearly this is bigger. So let's see. That also did not work. Maybe it only works when the elements are in the same they have a parent container. We'll figure that out. So don't worry. We're gonna leave it here for now. We'll figure that out as we keep going. So for now, you can see how the relative position works, right? The document is still within the normal flow. I'm surprised why the Z index would not work. It doesn't make sense. We'll see. Figure it out. So now let's move to the next value of positioning, which is the absolute. So this absolute is very, very radical. Okay. This one is not positioned relative to the normal flow. It is positioned relative to the nearest positioned ancestor. Nearest positioned ancestor. So let's just copy this, copy and paste it. I'm gonna create a different document to demonstrate this. Say absolute. These things can be very confusing. So in the absolute, we still have all of this. So currently, these elements, what is the parent? Their parent is the body, right? And the body, what is the position, the value of the position on the body? What is the value of this? So the parent is this, the position property, what is the value of it here? Static, right? But we didn't set it. So the default is going to be the static. So if it is static positioning, we don't care about it. So it's not going to be, so this, if we change this one to absolute, if we change it to absolute, I'm trying to explain what it does. What it's going to do is position this element relative to the nearest positioned parent. Currently, there is no, this parent has no position set on it. So this is now positioned. So the only thing left is going to be the HTML. It's going to be the HTML. So it's going to be positioned relative to the HTML element. And let's see what that does, okay? So the relative positioning is very important. Like, what are you positioned relative to? That's what it gets down to. So I'm just doing indentation here, okay? Let's execute the code and see what's gonna happen. You in browser? Look at it. Look at the elements. And another important thing that you should remember is that if you make the position absolute, the document is removed from the normal flow of the page. So like right now, this element, all other elements on this page will not be aware of this element. They don't know that this element exists anymore. Let me show you what I mean. So I think that is the only point when the Z index will work, I think, yeah. But the other point, the documents were aware of that element. It's a normal flow, so maybe Z index doesn't work over there. But we'll see now. Okay. So the HTML, as you know, that is the whole page, right? Everything on the page here lives within the HTML. And this one wanted to find a parent to be positioned relative to, but it didn't find any. So it's positioned relative to the HTML. So now the Z index, we set the bottom to be 20 pixels. That's why it came all the way to the bottom. If I set the bottom to be 0, then it will just stay there. It's to go all the way to the bottom. Can you guys see what is happening? Mm-hmm. Let me do one more thing. I'm going to increase the height of the HTML. So that by default, you see the height of the HTML document is what? The view height, That's the default. I'm gonna increase it to something bigger so that I can scroll up and down and we see what happens, right? So HTML, it's a tag, so I can just call it by name. And then says the height property. So let's say I want it to be twice the height of the view height. You can use pixels, anything, but I'm gonna say 2VH, and let's see what happens. Oh, just to save, So 2VH is still that. Let me see, 100 VH. What is that? Yeah. So actually the view height, I think you have to now, if you want all the view height, you have to say 100% of the view height. So I want the whole view height. So it's 100% of the view height. Currently, I want twice the view height. So you had to make it 200%, right? 200 height. That's the way it works. But we just have to know how this unit of measurements work and then try to use them that way. So currently, we set the bottom to be that, and you can see, if you scroll to the top, this is stuck at the bottom. but you can still do this. You're able to scroll more. See, as you scroll past this position, something significant is happening, guys. Let me make sure I'm able to articulate that. Okay. Right now, this is, see the bottom of the page, right? So the bottom is always about the page dimensions, right now, the HTML. But if I scroll past that, you can see this is going up and it keeps going up, right? Just take note of that. Let's play with this a little bit. Say we want to put it at the top right corner. So we can make, we already said that, right? We can just change the right, set the right to 0 pixels, and then set the top to say also 0 pixels. And then let's see what this do. This does. It goes all the way there. It goes all the way there. You know what? Let me give it a background color, okay, so that we can see what we are doing properly. Background. So let me say RGB. Just guessing what this color will be, I don't know. And now I'm gonna pick a color so that we can see the overlapping. So let me pick any color within this range. And then for the main, let's give it a different color. Different background. Give it something like blue color. Okay. And let's see. Right now we can see what's happening. The element is at the very top. And if you scroll up, it goes away, right? It goes away. Some of the properties, some of the position properties will make sure that it doesn't go away when you scroll. So just observe it, okay? So this is the absolute positioning relative to the next positioned parent. There was no parent, so it takes the HTML and it's there. Let's set the Z index now and see if it works. We already have it set. Say neighbor has Z index of 1,000 pixels and the main has a Z index of 1. But clearly you can see that it's not working. But let me give this, let me remove it from here. Try to give this styling to neighbor 1 and see if it works. So I am very, very curious as to why the Z index is not working. Let's check the values that it takes. Oh, so I think it's probably because of the pixels. Oh yeah, see, it takes a number. It doesn't take dimension like pixel and stuff. So guys, I believe that was the little mistake we did. Z index has to take a number. So now we can remove the number. Yeah. Let's see. So now this number is the biggest. It's bigger than that. And because of that, if we refresh the page, this one, I'm expecting the neighbor 1 to come on top of the main. And that also did not work. Z index. This is a little strange, guys. Let's see. So Z index of 100 pixels. And I gave that to neighbor 1 also. I'm still saying pixels, right? Should just be a number. Let me just remove this from here and see. I mean, it shouldn't make a difference, but surprisingly, Z index is still not working for us. We'll keep checking to see what is happening, what mistake we are doing. Let's just look it up also. Z index. not working. So when you have a problem, this is how we try to fix it. But before I look at why it is not working, let's just see how it is used first. Oh, the Z-score. Are you guys out of your mind? So Z-score is something else. And I'm very, very surprised that the Z index of 0 takes integer values, although negative values have lowest priority. So position relative, Z index of 1, Z index of 3. Yep. This is how it should, I don't think we are doing anything wrong. I'm surprised it's not working, but we'll figure it out. So let's see. Let me think a little bit and see what's going on. So it goes through this class first, and then it will do this one. So this one should take priority. So it should work. It's a little bit strange why this is not. We'll see. Okay, let's try this. I don't expect this to make any difference. Yeah, it didn't make any difference. Why? Okay, it's okay. We'll go. Let's keep trying the other positions. We'll see. Maybe we'll get to the one that works. So now let's look at, are you guys seeing what is happening with the absolute? These elements, they are all behaving as if this element doesn't exist anymore. The neighbors, they are not aware of this. See, that's why this is sitting on top of, it is sitting on top of this element, because they don't know that it is there. Okay, now let's go to the let me give them a parent first. But right now there is no parent, so you can see this is floating all over the whole page. Let me give them a parent, Dave. That's a good thing to do. Give them a parent, Dave, that we're gonna position. You know, so I'm gonna do the positioning in the code here. Says style equals position property, and then see, you can give it any value except the static, right? So let's just give it relative. Okay. So now let's see what happens. So suddenly something different is happening. Now this main element is no longer positioned relative to the HTML. It is positioned relative to this div, the parent div. Let's specify some height for this div so we can have something to look at. I'm gonna make the height say 200, say 400 pixels. The width is okay. Let's see. I mean, the height is there, but you don't see it. So let's specify some border around it. Border, say 2 pixels solid. Okay. So now oh my God, this is too big. But it's okay. That's the parent. Okay, so now let's do some movement of this element and see what is going to happen. It is positioned relative to the parent or the ancestor. So actually this is a parent, it's not an ancestor. Let's use so top is 0. Right is also 0, so it is here. let's say right is 0 and bottom is 0. I have a question. Where do you guys think this is going to move to now? See, I'm taking the top, the bottom 0, right is 0. Where do you think this is going to move to? Is it going to come to the bottom of the page here, or is it going to come down here?
Bottom of the page.
Why the bottom of the
Right.
page?
Because it's at 0.
The bottom is 0, but the bottom is relative to what? Relative
The
to,
viewpoint.
I'm sorry?
To the viewpoint, so it will go all the way to the corner.
See, right now it will not be relative to the viewpoint. You know why? Because it has an immediate parent that has a position set on it. If you didn't have an immediate parent with a position set on it, then it will go to the next parent. If it doesn't find it, then it goes to the viewpoint, which is the HTML. So now that it has this in there, it's going to be positioning relative to the parent. So the parent, this is all the space that the parent has. So if you set the bottom to 0, it has to come here. So that's the trick, you see? So the top and the bottom, they all work, but they are gonna work relative to the parent dimension. Okay, so let's make do something different, say 50%. I'm gonna 50%. The bottom, I'm giving the bottom 50%, and then the right, I'm also giving it 50%. Remember, you have all these dimensions, right? So let's see. I'm expecting this to move somewhere in the middle. And that's exactly what I did. Right? Okay. Let's move it up a little bit. I want to see an overlap happening. So 80% should move it up into the other region. Okay, bottom. Oh, sorry, I used the right is rather 80%. So let's keep the right at 50 and keep the bottom, increase the bottom a little bit to 80. See, depending on what you want to do, right? Nobody knows what you want to do. Nobody knows what design you want to do. So, okay, now let's set the Z index again. I'm so surprised about the Z index. Let me set it at this level and see what happens. Z index, let me make 1,000, the biggest ever. And still, it's not coming on top. So strange, but maybe there is some fundamental understanding that we are missing. That maybe that's what's happening, but we'll see. You guys saw what I did? See, the neighbor 2, I just gave it a Z index of a very big number. So I was expecting it to come on top of this element, but it is not doing it. And there is a reason, but we'll figure that out later on. But you have to remember that these elements are not even aware that the main element exists. So I'm not sure there's a reason why, but we'll see. So that is the absolute. Can you guys see the way the absolute works? You create a section and then you now position your things relative to that. Okay. Of course, you can also. Sorry.
Gloria boyfriend.
Okay. I know Ibrahim said something, but I know it wasn't.
I'm so sorry. It's not you. I'm sorry.
I figured. No problem. Okay, go back. So what did we put here? Right, 50 pixel. Okay, so now let's look at the other 2 properties. See, we're gonna do amazing designs with this, guys. You will see. So the other, we looked at relative, absolute. Now let's look at the fixed. Fixed. Okay, so let's create a file that we can use for the fixed. Right. These things, trust me, they are sometimes very difficult to remember, but hopefully as we go through it very slowly like this, it will help you guys to remember it. Okay, so now we want to demonstrate the fixed. So what does the fixed do? So the fixed and the absolute, they have something in common. You can see that the absolute is always positioned relative to something. It's relative to the parent, Dave, in the last example that we did, right? The absolute is relative to something. I mean, it's relative to the parent. And if there is no parent that has a position, then it's relative to the viewport. Now, if you make it fixed, fixed is always positioned relative to the viewport. It's always positioned relative to the viewport. So that's the only difference. So fixed is always positioned relative to the viewport, which is the whole screen. It doesn't care whether the parent has a position on it. It's always positioned relative to the viewport. Let's see how that works. So the main element, we change this to fixed. Let's save and see what happens now. Refresh, and so it is positioned over here because right is 50% and bottom is 80. Okay, let's see what happens as we scroll. 1 second. So the position is fixed, okay, and then we just scroll out above it. Because, well, I guess, you know, as we know, when you scroll, things are also scrolling. And this is fixed positioning. Let's see if we can make it come to the bottom left corner. So I'll make this one say 0, and then make the right also 0 and save it. And let's refresh and see what happens here. So fixed positioning. Oh, sorry, we are looking at the wrong file, I think. We are looking at the wrong file. Yeah. Sorry. So we're looking at the wrong file. So right, actually the right is 0 and bottom is 0. So it comes at the bottom here. You see? And because it's a fixed positioning, it stays there like that, right? It doesn't move. So I think the first example that I gave, there was a mistake, right? We were looking at a different document. Now we are looking at the proper document that has the fixed property on it. So let's make this one left. Let's make this one left. And I will ask one question very soon. So left, and then let's see. It will move to this position. Let me make the height, the width. Let me set the width here to be 100%. Set the width as set the width as 100%. Just want to show you guys something. So you can see that as I move, it is now moving. And the margin, let's remove the margin. Remove the margin. Just want to show you guys something. Of course, we can increase the height. Let's set the height a little bit. Say 30 pixels. Fixed. It's always going to be fixed on the page. Right? Let's see the behavior that we get. So 30 pixels is too small. Let's make it say 70. And see. Yeah. So now this is positioned, it's fixed positioning. So even if you scroll, it doesn't change. Can you see? Let's increase the height of the HTML, make it 500%. It's going to be very big. And see, just keep scrolling. Nothing happens. It stays at the bottom. So what does this remind you of? This kind of design? What we talked about the parts of the page. So which section of the page do you guys think would have this kind of design or styling? See, if you want to have an ability like this on your page, what section of the page would you try to be making in this case? See? Okay, so what is this whole section here? Is it not the body of the page? Right?
Yeah.
Everything up here can be in the body, but then this is the footer.
Yeah.
The footer. Right? If you have to design the footer, then you need to make it the position has to be fixed. And then you also have to, set the left and the bottom in such a way that it's going to be stuck at the bottom. And then you can start putting elements in it, right? So if somebody is making the footer, they need to have knowledge of the position, CSS positioning, and it's fixed. Because the fix doesn't move. As you scroll, it doesn't move. Is that understood? You can position wherever you want, but wherever you position it is going to stay there forever. That's the whole point. If I move it into the middle, it will just stay there as I scroll past it. Right? And you can move it to the top also. If I want to move it to the top, what will I do? Left, bottom. So I'll just change the bottom to top. Let's see. It's moved to the top. And let's see. Again, what do you guys think of? This one reminds you guys of this, right? And you see this whole section of the page.
Mm-hmm.
It's not moving. But so it looks like the fixed, that's one of the good use cases for the fixed. Okay, now let's look at the last property of positioning. I knew that this would take long because it's a very important concept that we need to get. So the last property, the last value is going to be the sticky. Sticky. So they are saying that the sticky acts like a combination of relative and fixed. So relative means it's in the normal flow of the document. And then fixed means that at a certain point, it stays there and it doesn't move. So let's see the way the sticky works. It's a combination of relative and sticky. Let's see how. I'm just going to copy the fixed code and paste it and just rename this to sticky. I don't know. The ability to understand what we are doing right now is so crucial, guys. And that makes a huge difference in the things that you can do. But it is very difficult to remember these things. But I'm hoping it's only five values that it takes, right? So let's try to memorize this thing, okay? So that we don't have to learn it again. We can always remember. The way we know the box model, if we can know these 5 values like that, then Charlie, it will be very, very good for us. Okay, so we are gonna demonstrate the sticky. And so let me just move this to the middle. The left can be 0, that's fine. Let's say top, let's make the top 50%. Okay, and let's see what we get. So this is what we get. Okay, so the sticky actually is also positioned relative to the viewpoint, not the parent element. And to demonstrate that, let's increase the top a little bit to say 80%. And see if it moves down. It is staying at the same place. Why is it so? Let's think. What file is this? Sticky, close that. Is this positioned relative to the parent? Could be. Let's check. I doubt it. Let's see if this is positioned relative to the parent. Let's make this top 0 and see where it goes. I'm making the top 0. Flash. Yeah, so making the top 0. Oh, this one is fixed. See, we are looking at the wrong file. We should be looking at the sticky. Okay, let's see. Okay, now I see what is happening with the sticky, guys. Oh gosh, the sticky. Sticky is interesting. So it is a combination of relative and a fixed. So relative means that it is positioned relative to the normal flow of the document. In other words, whatever place where you put that element, that is from that place, the positioning is going to happen starting from that place, right? So this is where we put it. So it is relative to the place. So that point is made. Now let's look at the fixed part of it. At what point does it become fixed? Because right now, if I'm scrolling, you can see that it is moving. So it is not fixed. If it is fixed, it's going to stay at the same place. But as soon as you scroll to the top of the page, now look, it becomes fixed. Fixed positioning. Why did it suddenly go? See, you come here, it stays, and then as you keep going, it doesn't move again. It doesn't move anymore. So now that is the fixed positioning happening. So that is basically what a sticky is. If you look at this page, actually, what we are using is the sticky. See, that's why it's moving down. See, we are using the sticky property. But I have this element at the very, very top of the page. That's why it is relative to the position where it is. But once you scroll to the top, it doesn't change anymore. But, I'm a little bit curious though, why this one goes to the top like this and it stays there, and then we move. And as soon as we get to this point, it starts to move also. So I think it is being controlled by the parent. And I can understand why it is being controlled by the parent, because it is relatively positioned, right? It is aware that this is my parent, and if the parent is moving away, then it also has to move away with it, right? So let's get rid of the parent so we can have a better behavior. Let's remove the parent, and then let's see. Okay, so we have it like this. Now let's see. It is still moving. It's still moving with the third element. So let me move that. Let me move the third element above it and see if it makes a difference. So essentially, the only thing that didn't work is the Z index, and we all have to look into why it didn't work. But tomorrow I'll definitely get you the answer. So the sticky is a little bit funny here. Let's move it up. I'm trying to.
Do you want to try it on a fix instead of sticky? Let's see if that's gonna stay.
Okay.
Yeah, maybe that aspect is gonna stay instead of moving with the other elements. Yeah.
Okay. So normally the way I understand it, like, see right now it will stay fixed. You see that now it's not moving, but after a certain point it moves. That's what I'm worried about.
Yeah. What I'm thinking is probably because of the parents is moving with the parents. Then at one point when it gets to that top, it's gonna stay on its own instead of moving with the parent.
Yeah, I think okay, so let's do something. What you're saying is right. So right now I got rid of the parent. So I would say the parent is probably the body of the page. So let's increase the body of the page, the height of the body. Currently, the height of HTML is big. Let's increase the height of the body and see. So that if the body is going away, it's probably going away with it, as you said. So now I've made the body very big. Let's see. Now let's see. Yeah, you see now we have a nice flow. See? So Ibrahim, the height of the body was very, very short.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, now we see the sticky in action. And yeah. Assuming we have more elements here. Let me set some. So the neighbors, let me just increase the height of the neighbors so that we can have some more space to scroll up. Change to 100 VH. Very bad design. The neighbors. Okay, so now you can scroll and then now you see we have a nice scrolling effect. Yes, and then it will stick and then so it goes with the document. See, it's moving with the document. And then as soon as it gets to the top, it will stay there. Okay. So we have this also in our toolkit that we can use when we are designing things. So let's see why actually the Z index, I'll leave it alone for now. Let's talk about the last thing that we need to talk about today. And if there is more time, we will do one short project. If not, we can continue tomorrow. But I want us to do the float. The float is also part of the positioning. And as you can see, it's very, very straightforward. But it's very, 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 very powerful. It only takes 3 values, the none, left, and right. None means that nothing should happen. Nothing, the element is not floating. Left means that you want the element to float to the left. Right means you want the element to float to the right. Of course, I'm going to demonstrate. Sorry. So the clear, what it does is if you set it to none, nothing happens. But if you set it to left, if any element is floating to the left, it's going to clear the float ability so that the element will now float to the left. If an element is floating to the right of the page and you set clear right, it's going to take away the floating ability on the right, and then it will not float on the right anymore. And if you set it to both, then left and right, if that element is floating on the left or the right, that floating ability will go away. But let's look at the float in action. So again, we're gonna create a file. We're gonna call it float.html. And we're gonna write this from scratch, hit tab. Float, normal, let's just use images. I'm gonna use one image. So we have an image tag like this. We have to specify the path to the image. So currently we are in a folder here. We need to come out of this folder. So // and we need to come out of the other folder also to get into the images. Oh, are we? No, we already, now we can see the images here. So that's good. So let's select any of these images, California. So we have this image that we want to make float on the page. So let's have some other elements on the page. Lorem 200. I want long paragraphs on the page, long paragraphs. So we can just copy and repeat this. I just want to demonstrate the float. I think the float is very, very powerful. I love the float, man. I love the float. Okay, so let's see what this actually does. So this is what we have. Our page is like this. Right now, you guys know the way the image tag is. by default, the image tag is an inline element. It takes as many space as it needs. Currently, I think the idea of height is the image is aware of the height of the content and also the width. So this is more like an inline block right now. So that's why it is also reserving. I mean, it looks like it's reserving the rest of the page. No way. Actually, inline block is not supposed to reserve it, but let me put border on the image and see where it goes. I'm just curious as to why. I mean, oh yeah, now I know why. You see the paragraph has to be a block, it's a block element. So paragraph is a block element, so it's not gonna flow into the image just like that. But this is a block element. Does that make sense? The paragraph needs the whole space to itself. That's why it didn't come here. Let me make it a span. And then you see, I'm expecting that to flow. I mean, this has nothing to do with floats anyway. I'm just confusing you guys.
So sorry, can you make a paragraph to be inline block or inline instead of by
block.
default to be block?
Oh yeah, you can. You set the display.
You just said it. Okay.
You just set the display and then it will override that.
It will override it. Okay.
So right now I changed it into a span, and look at how the span works. So the image kind of ends here and the span took over. So it's still a very awful arrangement. We have to do more to make it move to here. Like if we want this to come over here, that is what we are going to do now. The way you do it is the float. Okay, so now let's I went back to the paragraphs. I want to demonstrate how the float works. If you're gonna pick the image and say, I want the image to float. Once you do that, it takes the image away from the normal flow of the document. In other words, this paragraph will come to the beginning. But you want it to flow to the left or to the right. If you say to the left, then it will come here and then the paragraph will begin from here. Very cool behavior. So let's just do that. I'm just creating my styles tag. Guys, you guys just look at me do this, and it's a little bit different from you doing it, but we will give you guys time to also practice live for me to see. All right. So the image, what I want is the float. So float is a property, and I want it to float to the left. That is all I have to say. And if you come here, now you have this behavior. You see, sometimes you go to a page, you see an image on the left, and then every other paragraphs, they are kind of wrapping around it.
So this one that you did, you didn't have like a class for it before you do the float in the style. So if I have more than one images, how am I going to do it to know that this is the one I want to float?
So it will float all of them.
All of them together. So if I want to identify, I need to use ID or class to do that.
Yes, sir. If you want,
thank you.
Yep. If you want to identify, you use an ID or a class. Yeah. Yep. You know, you have the power to do a lot of things. So now there are two images that are supposed to float. So the other one is floating too. See, everything is wrapped around it. It's very ugly looking, but of course you can. We can do some more design. Let's do some more design here because we have it. Let's set the width of the images. Let's control the image a little bit. Set it to say 90 pixels. And also, so the display of the images, as we know, are inline. Let's make it inline block. So I'll change the display to inline Let me just change the display to block display. I don't like that. So,
No, you know, on block we can't do height and width. Probably inline block.
yeah, yeah. But then once we have this, they say that the float is gonna override the inline.
Oh, okay. So, okay.
Yeah, it will override it, but it's still not bad. It's still it does what we want, anyways. It is still inline block, right? So inline block means wherever the 90, the width ends, the other one comes. So they are next to each other. Inline block, the heights and the width. So what you said was powerful, right? If it's inline, we can set the heights. So ignore the warning. This is just a warning. It's not an error. So let's increase this a little bit, say 300 pixels, so we can see, right? So this is the images, and they are all of them are floating to the left. But what if we want to put some space between this and this? What do we have to do?
Margin.
Margin. Now you guys are good students. So margin, say 15 pixels. And once we do that, we get a space. This is a beautiful page, man, to have. If you design a page like this, your company would be happy, man. A blog page or something like that. Yeah.
Maybe this is what those news company outlets use for their online news.
Yeah, this is what they use, yes. And I'll show you another place. I've seen a place here, blogs. You know, because you blogging, you just a bunch of paragraphs and images, you know. So the way you display the page, like this one. So this one is not actually floating around it. They divide the whole page into two. Let's see if we find a place where the text is actually floating. So here it is not floating either. It's side by side. This is like two columns. Like you guys can easily do this.
Do you want to check New York Times?
Okay. Breaking news. Yeah, many sites would have that behavior. So this one too is like two columns, right?
Yeah.
Let's click into this and see. So here is not floating. So clearly we all get the point. We've seen this many places, they use it, blogs. But in case you ever want a feature like this, that's how you do it. Now we are floating to the left. Let's float to the right and see the difference. It will just, you know, to just go to the right. All the images will move to the right. Like this. I think this is a beautiful feature. And then like that, responsive. Okay. Now, if we change it to none, then it's not gonna float. None. There's no floating, as we know, and everything is gonna be like this. Okay. Now, what more thing? Okay, so let's demonstrate the clear with the same thing. Let me change this one to say to right. The clear and the float, they work together. Right now, you can see this paragraph is floating. If you want to use the clear, you have to do it on the paragraph. Leave the image alone. The image is going to keep floating, but you want to tell this paragraph to not float. So I think that the clear would be, I'm selecting the paragraph tags, and then I'll just say, clear is the property, and you are clearing the left. It's floating to the left, so we just want to clear that. And let's see what happens if this works for us. Okay, so it didn't work for us. Let's see. which element does the clear have to go? I believe it has to go on these elements. Oh, okay, 1 second. Paragraph tag.
But
Clear.
you said clear to left, and the float is on the right. Do you want to maybe right? Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, maybe right. Yeah,
Clear to have to be right.
yeah. Let's try the right and see if that works. So the right. What the fuck? I thought so. This was floating to the left. See this concept, left and right. We have to be mindful. What do you think was happening? So this is floating to the right. Oh, okay. So when you are clearing to, you have to clear the right. They kind of go hand in hand. Because I thought that if this is floating to the right of the page, then the paragraph will float to the left, right? But it doesn't seem to. That's not a concept. And sometimes you want this one because let's say the element that comes after this, you don't want that to kind of wrap around. Maybe it doesn't make sense to have it wrapped around any other element. So then you're gonna use the left. And of course, the clear. And to be on the safe side, you can always say both. Because sometimes you don't want both. You just want, it cannot flow to one direction, but it can flow to the other. So, and then this happens, the same thing. And then once you change it to none, then there's no clear property happening. And sometimes you would need all these things. So, and then boom, go back to what you used to be. So guys, this is exactly what I wanted to show you guys today. And if you come to the site, I have positioning. The first link is more like a summary of everything. And then if you go to the second, I'm going to give it proper names. Later on, I give some little details about the positions only, the positional values only. And then, yeah, so here it's just the positional values. Good descriptions about them and what they do. And, it's a good thing to read this if you forget. And the float is what we just did. I also isolated the float and, some little notes. I have to beautify these things, right? I have to add some CSS, but I need time to do that. So that is all there is to CSS positioning. Do you guys think that this can become useful for us as we design pages?
Sure. Highly useful.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. And essentially, if you know the box model and you know the positioning, I think that you're gonna do amazing things, right? And the fact that you have the left and the top, the bottom properties available to you, I think is also very beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah, just to position things. But if we can use it with understanding, that is the only way that we're gonna benefit from it. But of course, yeah, when I'm building projects with you guys, I'll be using them. I don't want us to jump into the JavaScript right away. I want us to spend time doing some CSS a little bit more. CSS is very fun, as you guys can see. And with the HTML and CSS, you can do WordPress development right now. And if you can do WordPress development, you can start getting jobs on Fiverr, right? You can be developing pages for people, websites for people, not pages. I mean, websites are made up of pages, right? A website is made up of many pages. And all those pages, you just a bunch of HTML and CSS, nothing more. Yeah, and if I say websites, you can think of mine. This is one. This whole site, everything you see is just plain HTML and CSS. There's nothing here. See, there's an image, there's a text, it's a background image. Very simple. There's one div, there is a H1 tag and then say H3 or something. And this is a button. And then there's a background image. You all can develop this, and then you can, last week we did something similar to this, 3 layouts, and I have 6 of them. And if you click, so can you see how simple this is? So you have the power to do something like this. And companies are, or most companies are using WordPress development for their websites. And if they are not using WordPress, they are using some HTML and CSS, only these two. Because if it is not a software, you don't need to write code, like complicated code to do it, right? So websites are not software. They are not a software. So it's just HTML, CSS. So I think that these two things, they are the introduction to web development, and they are very, very important. Right. So maybe next week, if we get time, I'll take you guys to the back end of this site and show you how I build the stuff, how I develop these pages and all that. Probably I'll do it at the last stage. And if I get convinced that you guys are doing the assignments and you guys are doing pretty good, I'll give anybody who is doing good, I'll give you access to this site, and then I'll ask you to develop a page that we can show. Right now, this is the home page. It's a page that I built. And even if you go to learn more, it's another page. Actually, I can't believe I'm sending them here. Say contact us, sorry. Much better. It's a much better page. See, it's a simple page. If somebody wants to contact us, they can just use the form, right? And all of that. It's nothing complicated. And then if you want to learn about us, stuff like that, it's just okay. Any questions?
No.
So
I think Ibrahim dropped.
Yeah, I think his network connection he drops and then he comes back. Afi, at this point, we can do the practice tomorrow.
Yeah, sounds good.
Yeah, we will build something together tomorrow to practice the concepts.
Okay.
Yeah. Did you get value from the class?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, actually, I don't think there is a lot more concepts that we need to cover. We've covered pretty much everything that we need to know. But the flex and the grid, they work completely different also. It's additional tools that we can use. But as far as the basics of CSS is concerned, after today's class, I believe that we've covered pretty much everything.
Okay.
With the exception of maybe we've covered about 80% or something. Tomorrow I'll let you guys know what is left.
Okay.
To do. Yeah. And we'll just practice this. I thank you for coming. Do you have any questions for me? If not, we can end it here.
No, I don't have any questions right now.
Yeah, and also I like to say that a Z index, I'm gonna look into it. Tomorrow morning we're gonna see what was happening.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you and enjoy the rest of the day.
You too.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
I'll text Ibrahim to let him know. Bye-bye.
Okay. All right. No problem.
Mhm.